development from Africa around, and also creators from Zimbabwe. And today I'll be speaking to a wonderful creative who wears so many hats, so many caps. She does so many things, but everything revolves around the creative arts, youth, and the voice for women. And I'm going to be speaking to Luleka Mhlanzi, who is the author of the Confiscated Identity, a published book, and she's a published author, poet, performing poet and actress, a writer and a youth facilitator who is currently based in Pietermaritzburg. Luleka, welcome to earGROUND.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome. It was a struggle for us to connect, but finally we managed to connect.
Yes, with the kind of life that we are living now, everything being technical, we're going to be okay. We'll get used to it.
Great. But how have you been coping with the whole pandemic situation as a performing artist?
Hey, it's been hectic. I won't lie. It's been hectic, especially because when there are lockdowns, there's the shutdown of every event, of literally everything that binds people together. And that's my line of work. You understand? Because if I'm not being a writer, I'm a youth facilitator at an organization I volunteer at. So all of those things were really very difficult to execute because they require people to be present. And as I was saying, that we'll get used to the whole thing of technology, is because we had to move most of the things to Zoom, to going live. And as much as it is effective and it gets the message across, but I still feel like it's not the same as actually
it's
just
not
being
the same.
present. True. So it's been difficult because even with gigs, there haven't been many gigs. If you're live, of course, the money is going to be less. And so it's been difficult, right? Even with that. How has it been for you?
Wow, it's been, I think, a mixed fortune because I just started like podcasting and, doing like live streaming. And then when COVID started, it was like a year into the work, and then everything like went digital. So we've managed to grow like 10-folds in terms of the impact, in terms of the following, in terms of everything within a space of a year, But on the downside, would love to interact with people, would love to be on the go to attend events and stuff. And now because of COVID, everything is sort of limited. But always innovate, like as creators, always find a way around to say, how do we integrate, create some hybrid events, hybrid projects, where we can do live, where we can just be online, we just be online.
I see, man. I see.
Great. I'll take you back to your childhood. You have accomplished so many things and you still continue to break many new ground, How do you recollect your childhood, and at what point did you develop an interest in words, text, and rhyme?
The stuff that I remember from my childhood is that I had one parent that was present, that has always been present, and that's my mother. And the reason my father hasn't been around is because he died when I was just a year old. So so I've grown into that type of environment and hopping from one school to another, because if my mother was not satisfied with my marks in that school, she would be changing the school the following year. So I changed many schools. In primary, I think I went to about 6 different schools. I don't remember repeating a year in the same school. Because, when I think about it now, I'm like, maybe I was quite intelligent, because I'm thinking changing scenery all the time.
I can imagine as well.
So I think my childhood has been like that, really. And there hadn't been then much of a background of a home. We would be renting spaces here. And then when I have to change school, because that's what my mother really just wanted to make sure, and she just wasn't satisfied with the many schools that I was going to. So we would be changing places to stay as well. So those are the memories I remember. When I got into, I think where I found the spark to get into poetry was when I was in grade 7. I was still in primary school. My English teacher wanted us to do a play. It was a play about water, about saving water, and then I was anticipating to have like a role in the play, like to be either the mom or the sister or whatever. But she decided that I do poetry to just sum up the whole thing. And there already was a written poem. I don't know who wrote the poem, a written poem about saving water and whatnot. So that's really just my first experience with the touch of poetry and performing, having to perform poetry. So yeah, I think after that, I started to develop, because I didn't know what it was then. I just thought it was short stories, like very, very short stories, and I would just be narrating this story in a certain way, in a certain wave of my voice, and I enjoyed it. And then I started looking for poetry in the magazines, because the magazines that my mother bought would have slots of poems that were written there, and then I would recite those poems as my own. I wouldn't say to people that the poems weren't mine. So even when I went to grade 8, that was in high school, I remember I took one poem that wasn't supposed to be mine, and then I said the poem. However, as I got into the higher grades of high school, I started writing my own, and then this is where we are.
Wow. And which writers did you enjoy reading, or what sort of material were you reading? Apart from those that were coming in the magazines, are there specific authors and writers that you would say, these really gave me, much motivation?
I actually would be lying if I said I had a reading background then. I would absolutely be lying. Although there would be books that we would read in school, but before I actually started writing, I had no interest much in reading. And I did read a few books in high school, but I can't remember the authors or the titles of the books. But I can't. Only now I know which books I enjoy. And but I remember there's one that we acted out when I was in matric. It's written by Bab John Kani. It's called Nothing But the Truth. So that's one read. I remember the title and the author, because we also had to act out, bringing myself the memory of reading back then. Only now I know which authors I enjoy reading.
Wow, great. And I mean, what's involved in your creative process when you're putting your pen and paper, to write a poem? What comes into your mind? What comes first? Do you get melody? Do you get a theme?
Yeah. What happens is, because first of all, I don't write about what I don't know. I don't write about things I've not felt, or tried to understand or question. Mm-hmm. So what I think where it really, really just starts is with the thought that is bothering me in my mind, whether it's a question of a particular thing that's really just bothering me, or a thing I'm probably rebelling against, or what's on the news or the trends, and trying to find where my balance with the trend on where I actually get to understand whatever it is that is happening. So with my process of creating, there must be that thing that is bothering me at the time. So when I deliberately put myself into a space of writing, I have a skipping rope. So I take my skipping rope with me. I take a jug of water with me, and then I play some soft music. And then as I skip, because that's also how now I try to deal with my emotions, even when I want to just let it out, I start with shaking my body like that. So as I skip, I'm thinking. So that is how I get to stop, say at 20, because I skip in tens at 20, and then write what it is that is coming into mind, and not try to edit it same time in my head. Just write it as it is, as the thought comes. So that is the process that I go through. And then sometimes I get stuck. Say I just write one stanza or just one paragraph, and then I get stuck with continuing, and then I go back to the skipping, because when I go skip, I do tell myself that, okay, I'm going to do about 400. I target, in most cases, not all the time, I target the higher number that I've never skipped towards. So I'm saying, let me do 400 skips today, because I actually just deliberately want to write. And then I would skip, sip some water, come back if it's coming back, or entertain another thought, because the mind can harbor many different thoughts and many different emotions, and all of these things you want to write them out. So if I feel like, okay, for now nothing else is coming from this particular issue, and then I continue, because I told myself that I'm writing at this point. And then I remember another thing that is bothering me. Maybe it's parenting, because I'm a parent, or maybe it's just other many things that are happening. And then I write, and then sometimes I get like a full written thing on the next, and not the first one. And then I move on if I can still write some more about this, or I feel a bit satisfied for now, or even when I feel like I'm starting to divert from the mood, or because the mind, you also want to be creative. You want a creative piece that's gonna wow the people. So when I start worrying about things like that, sometimes I stop. Once I'm like the reality of this thing now is gone, I'll come back to this to edit, to make it look creative, to add the weather, the colors, and the whatnot. So yeah, that's my creative process.
Very interesting there. And women, youth, and environment, does that sum up the key topics that you dwell around?
Yes, most definitely because I'm a woman. Yeah. I'm young. Yeah. So those are actually, like I was telling you earlier, that I don't write about things I've not experienced or things I've not seen, because sometimes I don't have to experience it firsthand. But the from my point of view, from where I stand, and even if it's a thing that is indirect, I try to understand how it makes me feel, what I think about it, and yeah, basically.
Wow, that is great. And you have won awards, you have toured, you have performed. What would you regard as that breakthrough moment in your career?
There's two, actually. There's two. The first one was a film that is now like an international one.
Yes.
That I was asked to act on. And mind you, besides the only experience I've had with acting was in primary, not much, and in university, but that was more like an extension of poetry, because I was in love with poetry anyway. So I could also get to act. But being appointed to act on a very big film that was for a project that was going to be taken to Cannes Film Festival, that was big for me. And that was in 2015. The year where you're just trying to figure yourself out, because I was watching myself from that year, like, what is happening? Because I feel like during the years you're just living, you're not much in the detail of what's serious, and when you start to hit rocks, you start to try to check how am I going through my path, that type of thing. So I was watching myself then, And I was still trying to figure so many things because I didn't understand a lot of things even about myself. So I was appointed at that type of time where there was not much confidence in myself, but this very big thing that is happening to me that is supposed to be affirming me.
Yeah.
So that's my first groundbreaker. And the second one, I think because here in South Africa especially, the biggest stage we have of poetry is getting to perform into the festival called Poetry Africa. It's an international festival, and then I think it was on its 23rd year. It was in 2019. So that one too was also a moment for me, because even I then deliberately dedicated even the poems more to myself, to my healing, because one mistake that I feel like we've done as writers is to deny ourselves healing from our own work. So yeah, Poetry Africa too was like my biggest, because it was a dream. So I got to live my dream, because they would give you a 5-star experience, and you probably know yourself to come from a poor background type of thing, and you're not so familiar much with hotel experience and whatnot, and they give you that, and you are performing with big names, people you've seen on TV, people that have been inspiring you. It's like an out of body experience.
I can imagine.
Yes, so yeah, those two have been my highlights so far.
And would you say that it's possible to live and work just as a poet without doing something else? Because I see you're doing so many things. You're working as a youth facilitator, you're doing poetry, you're writing, you're acting. Does one has to do so much for them to make it, or you can just be a poet and survive?
I think people can be anything really, However, I think you can, because I mean, being human is a work on its own. There are so many elements that come with being human. There's parenting, you're a daughter at home, there's many things. I think you can, mostly for me, because that's only the point I can come from, because that's my experience. For me, facilitating is not far from poetry, because when I facilitate youth, we get to a point where we get creative anyway. So for me, I think you can, especially if your line of work or your kind of responsibility you have are not far off from each other, because acting is not so far from performing poetry, and yeah. So I think, especially if it's things that are aligning or are in sync with it, or like I was saying, being a human on its own is diverse. If you are able to sync all of your things, I think you can.
That is great. And the festival, the 7th African Women's Writers Symposium, is happening. It's underway. It started on the 4th and ends next week,
Yes.
And you're one of the poets that are lined up to be part of it. And I look at the other people that are on the lineup. These are international, poetic luminaries, and you're amongst them. How does that? How does that feel?
I think I'm starting to believe that, yeah, there is really something, because sometimes, when life hits you, man, that you patronize yourself, even you don't see yourself as any important, or with any important voice, or with any message that someone else could could just relate to, or could find help on, or could just listen to. So things like this are very affirming. They are affirming that you have something to say, and the universe can feel it. And I think also, because I try to live my truth, I think that's also what's attracting me at this point, that, okay, come through, here's a platform, although this big, but here's a platform anyway. So yeah, it's incredible for me, and it's very affirming that I'm here, it's happening.
Wow. It's affirming. And when you look into the future, what do you see 5 years from now? Where do we see Luleka?
Okay, 5 years, if I were to be realistic, because I'm going to start a course on English literacy and English language and literature, you know. So I'm thinking in 5 years, I wouldn't be a doctor then. So, yeah, but I think, yeah, in 5 years, studying me into my own field, hopefully I'd be in my honors or masters with with that. And also, I think I would have gotten the platform because there's also projects, mini projects that I'm working with. Like one of them is Beauty Revised. I think I would have founded ground for Beauty Revised, which is to encourage young Black women and little girls to be confident. It's for girls who have been deemed ugly, because I have also gone through that experience and have gone through bullying and have in turn become less confident of themselves. And because I know the issues around that, that's the project that I'm most passionate about. So I feel that I would have found ground for my project in 5 years from now. And I would have most definitely traveled, hopefully with COVID being over by then, would have traveled at least to Kenya in person, to other African countries.
To Zimbabwe.
Yes, most definitely. I'd love to come to Zimbabwe. I'd love actually to visit the whole continent. Not that I wouldn't want to go out of the continent, but for me, if it were to go to, according to me, I would start with the countries in the continent. So I believe I would have at least visited about two in 5 years. And I would have gotten my second book out, because I'm thinking I want to have it out soon. So I was probably thinking my third. No, it's probably going to be my second in 5 years. So yeah, that's where I think I would be in 5 years.
Wow, that is exciting. And you mentioned the bullying, and we are commemorating the 16 days against gender-based violence. How do you relate to that, and what would be your message to the world?
Hey, that's a tough one. It's a tough one because in South Africa, it's one of the most heated things that we are talking about. Not only because it's 16 days of activism, but it's a burning issue. It's a burning crisis currently, and there are so many things. There are so many people coming out, and so many other people having different opinions with regard. It's a very sensitive thing, you know. I'm trying to. So with our own experiences as women, where hardly you find a 28-year-old woman who will tell you they have not gone through that. You know, they have not gone through any type of abuse, from emotional abuse, whether in relationships, in schools, or just for being woman, just for being a Black woman. It comes from the stigma of having to go through your periods. There's a lot of stigma there that you find, a lot of things that are said to you that are nasty to make you feel dirty, or as if it's your fault to begin with. And there's not much support with that. And the intensity and the mystery of childbirth is one thing that has, I don't know, I feel like it has been lowered to an extent that no one finds it to be much of a big deal to be close to a death, life and death type of experience. And those are the things that women actually go through in their bodies, and they are ridiculed for them. And there are issues, there's crisis with issues around abortion, and there's not much there's not much counseling that comes with whoever has gone through the process, because it's not just an easy thing. So there's not enough support with that. There's so much. And I do understand that it's not all the time that we can always point towards men and blame men and what, because where there's always a problem, there's another problem under that problem. So there's a reason why our society is built this way. And it's not to say at all that as much as we feel so victimized and vulnerable, but it's not to say that we are not in a space to make any mistake, and that we've not, as women, done far worse crimes or far worse bullying, whether among ourselves as women or towards men. So what I'd like to say with what I'm saying, because I'm trying to not to lose my point. What would be my message though? My message is directed to both men and women, that can we hold space for, say for example, if I'm talking to women, can we have space for men to learn? They've heard, they've understood, and I don't think we must be going to a point where we must hate men. Men must not be around. You just type of thing. I think we must have space. We must not cancel men. That's my point. That we because men are people, and where there's a problem, there's a reason behind the problem. Can we try dig for more reasons and dig into who's raising these men? And you would find that in most cases it's women, because they are also absent fathers. So it's like the finger keeps pointing like this. It's you, and then it's me, and then it's you, and then it's me. So trying to dig until we find the core or the main cause of what's happening into our humanity. So yeah, my point is, can we just have space for all of us to learn? Because I can't only just say men and women as if that's the only gender that we have. So in respect of everyone, can we just have space to learn for people? Yes, voice out your points. Do not die in silence. That's not at all what I'm saying. Also have space to learn, whether you're a man or you're a woman. And also, when you've understood, I would like for people to just be empathetic, because I feel that is where that feeling can ground you. You to try and put yourself into someone else's shoes, as much as you know that you cannot be the person. That thing can ground you and get you to a point of understanding into where this person is coming from. So if we can try to have that in our hearts, I think we can try to create like a better society than what we are living in.
Oh, deeply profound. Wow, I really, really appreciate. I would have wanted to continue talking to you, but I know you're busy. But what are your words to that young girl who was hoping and dreaming to become a poet and a writer like you? What would you say to them as words of encouragement?
Okay, I would say, girl, life is not only bad. Life is not only bad, it gets beautiful. So with regards to writing and being in poetry, this is a very developing space. It's a developing space, and if you remain true to yourself, and what you're telling is your truth and what you perceive, I think you can work out just fine, as long as you just don't lose yourself, because it's easy to lose yourself in the space, and it's a space that is very consuming on with regards to energy, because sometimes you will write a piece that when you deliver it to people, it leaves you drained. Like it feeds people, but it leaves you drained. So it's things like that are the difficulties that we face. And also there's not much finances in this industry. As I was saying, it's a developing one. So hopefully, young girl, by the time you're my age, things would have been better, because that's what we are trying to build.
Wow. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. It was great speaking to you, and I'm going to speak to you in the next couple of years. And I know by then we'll be talking about so many other things that we'd have achieved by then. And I'm definitely going to also look out for your book and read it, Confiscated Identity.
Confiscated Identity.
Great. I'm going to request another interview later on where we're going to be talking about this book after I've read it, so that we can go through it, because I think the title already for me is very, very interesting there. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much to everybody who's been watching. I've been speaking there to Luleka Mhlanzi, who is an author, and she is a performing poet and actress, a creative writer, a youth facilitator, and currently based in Pietermaritzburg. And she's going to be performing. You're performing this week, right?
Yes, this Sunday.
This Sunday. Wow, great. She's going to be performing this Sunday at the 7th African Women's Writers Symposium. And we've got also our sister from Zimbabwe there, Hope Masiki, is going to be performing there. And the lineup is quite amazing. Several poets that are lined up to be performing. There are also other musicians that are also there, you know, that include Becky Kosa and Kolisa Lamini, and our sister Hope Masike is also going to be on the lineup. Until next time, remember, earGROUND, your voice is amplified. Thank you so much, Luleka.